Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham. Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Ishavasyopanishad Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagate Tena Tyaktena Bhunjithaha Magrudah Kasya Svidhanam Kuruvanneveha Karmani Jiji Chatagum Samaha. Evam Tvai Nanyatetosti Nakarmalipyate Nare Asuryanamate Lokaha Andhena Tamasavrutāha Tamste Pretyabhigachanti Yeke Chatmahano Janaha Anejadekam Manaso Javiyaha Nainadeva Apnuvan Purvamarishate Tadhavatonyanatyeti tishthate Tasminnapo Matarishva Dadhati Tadejati Tannaijati Taddure Tadvantike Tadantarasya Sarvasya Tadu Sarvasyasya Bahyatah. We had completed the fifth mantra. Fourth and the fifth mantra gave indicators of Atma. Whenever the sadhaka's mind has become quiet, has become composed, whatever he has heard in Shravanam, on that he wants to meditate now. Until there is agitation in the mind or something else which is preoccupying the mind, Atma Lakshanas don't look appealing. It looks like same thing they're saying over and over again. Atma is Nirguna, Atma is so many things they are saying. But when the mind becomes pure, one of the insignia of having done Pravritti well is that this mind wants to abide in its own nature. You can also put it in this way. The result of Pravritti is in Nivritti. If ever we want to ask ourselves, I have taken up so many duties in life, have I done it well or not? The direct indicator is that work leading me towards abidance in the self? If yes, then my bhavana, my attitude in all that karma that I took up was in the right direction and it has fulfilled its purpose. This is how Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji introduces Srimad Bhagavad Gita. There are two paths. One is path of action, Pravritti, where we have so many duties, so many roles. And another is path of self-inquiry, Nivritti, where we are withdrawing from other things and investing our mind in study, reflection, meditation. And Bhagavan says, Pravritti has completed its work only when it takes us towards Nivritti. So the Karma Yoga part, which is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, is a reminder to Arjuna and all of us that may we do Karma Yoga in such a way that whatever absolute result we are seeking, we can effortlessly go and own it up. Fifth mantra elaborated these indicators of Atma. But Upanishad mantras are unlike Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, there are very few shlokas which you have to really, it's a difficult arrangement. You have to reflect more on top of what is said. Like na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah. That is one such shloka. But general Bhagavad Gita, if you see, everything is straightforward. Bhagavan very clearly explains what is the main concept. Then he will elaborate himself, give examples also. Upanishad Rishi, it was a revelation to them. So it's very cryptic in many places. So for example, here the mantra said, Tad ejati, tad na ejati. It moves and it does not move. What was the implied meaning of that? Kriya in Atma is mithya. If something is moving and unmoving at the same time, means the conditioning is what is moving, but the conditioning and the conditioned, the superimposed and the substratum, both are mixed up. That is why it looks as though the substratum is moving. The example we had seen was water, sun getting reflected in water. The water moves, it appears as though the sun is moving. Really speaking, even the reflection is not moving. It's only the conditioning which is moving. Other example was pot space. You move the pot, condition is moving, conditioning is moving. If my attention is on conditioning, the pot space appears to be moving. Really speaking, pot space doesn't have anything to do with pot. Space doesn't even know that there is something called as pot inside it. Like that, Atma doesn't know there is something called as Jagat. One Mahatmaji would give an example. If you are wearing a shawl or something, on your dress, and right at the corner of the shawl, if there is one small ant, you don't even know who is there. Happily, you are doing your things. So like that, Brahma doesn't know there is prapancha appearing in it. That is its Vishuddhi. That is the meaning of Tat ejati, Tat na ejati. Literally, if you see, how can somebody misunderstand this? He says there is something, sometimes it moves, then it is stationary. Not in that way. It is given in such a manner so that we can reflect upon nature of Atma and understand what is its true essence. Tad ejati, tad na ejati means kriya in Atma is mithya. Tad dure, tadu antike. It is far and it is near. Again, here somebody can feel, oh, there is something which is called as Atma. Sometimes it goes far and sometimes it is near. We take for granted that there is something called as space and we start thinking everything in that space. We take for granted there is something called as time and we start thinking in the realm of time. Whereas Upanishad says, you remove your mind and then see where is space and time. You don't have to literally remove. Deep sleep. In Sushupti, when mind dissolves, there is no concept of space, no concept of time. So tad dure tadu antike, the implied meaning was farness in Atma is only because of ignorance. Our mind is right now turned outside. Because of that, we miss paying attention to this blissful self. Tad dure tadu antike. It is very far for that person whose mind is extrovert. For the one who has trained his mind, purified his mind, it is antike. There is never a time when he loses sight of his blissful self. That is the greatness of a Siddha Purusha. They also live in the world like we do. But really speaking, they don't live in this world. One name of Bhagavan is Natavara Vapuh. Natavara Vapuh means the foremost amongst all actors. The one who takes a physical form and does acting in such a way that everybody is deluded. Like when Yashoda ji tied Bhagavan with the rope, the tears that he shed was so, heart melting that Yashoda ji said, why am I tying him? But right after that, Ukala Bandhanam pulled that entire mortar, gave moksha to 2 demons. So Bhagavan got the name Natavara Vapuh. Just like Bhagavan is Natavara Vapuh, Jivan Mukta is also Natavara Vapuh. They also live in this world. We go through joys and sorrow, and we feel they are also going through joys and sorrow. So they are looking at this world just like a dream. Navadware pure dehi naiva kurvan nakarayan. He is living in this body, which is like a city for him. Navadware pure means it is a city where this jnani is living, just watching the drama of life. How this life is unfolding, how prarabdha is bringing so many things. Someday some joy comes. He says, Arey, you have come? He says, I don't have any false idea that you are going to stay forever. Joy says, I am going. He says, go. And sorrow comes. Sadaka will try to stop it. Jnani says, sorrow has come, nothing surprising. Let it come. He is a mere onlooker to joy, mere onlooker to sorrow also. That is his jnani, tadu antike, because he is abiding in that self, which is the innermost, unaffected by this creation. So second one was, avidya is the only obstacle between us and Brahman. Brahman is not somewhere else that I have to go and find it. There is something obstructing me. See, other things, if there is one trophy kept here and 100 people are competing, how many will get that trophy? Only one person. But Brahman is that only thing. Even if 100 people are competing, everybody gets it. That is a beauty. Later this mantra will say, if we make this as our goal, this Brahman as our goal, our life will be free from jealousy. Because we are seeking that which is a substratum of this whole creation. Where is the scope for any gruna over there? So second one was tad dure tadu antike tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasyasya bahyatah. It is the innermost of everything, but yet it is beyond everything. Now again, how will our mind think? Oh, innermost means it has to be smaller, smaller, smaller. And then beyond everything means it has to be very, very big. Again, we bring some objectification in our thinking. So this mantra has come to remove that. It says antar and bahya is only with respect to conditioning. Just like in space, inside and outside is only with respect to the wall. As far as space is concerned, there is no inside, there is no outside. So here also, only when ahankara comes, on top of that identifies with body. Then we make this distinction between inside me and outside. Before studying Vedanta, our inside-outside starts from body. We think everything which is inside is me, everything which is outside is Jagat. So whenever we say Jagat is Mithya, sometimes even that boundary is not body. It is those things which we are attached to, the boundaries that we have drawn. So until that part you protect. After that, whatever you want to say Mithya, you can do. But here, after studying Vedanta, the Upadhi, when we say, Upadhi starts from Maya, Avyakta. After that comes our mind, the subtle conditioning, Ahankara. Prana. Prana is also subtle. Then comes this gross physical body and the gross world outside. So just like at individual level, we had Maya, we had Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira. Samashti level also we have Ishvara, then Hiranyagarbha and Virata Purusha. Total conditioning is this. But both of them are appearing in that same consciousness. That is how this sadhaka meditates using the indicators from these verses. See, what happens is, in the beginning, when we study other texts, they will mention the path, means what we have to do in our Vedantic sadhana. For example, in Vedanta Sara, a lot of discussion was there on Nididhyasanam, how to meditate, what is Savikalpa Samadhi, what is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Now, when we start Upanishad, none of those things will be discussed. They will expect that we remember what is our duty as a Vedanta sadhaka. Whatever indicators are mentioned in Upanishad, that we have to find time to meditate upon. So they assume that we are already meditating regularly and using these mantras to fine-tune our nishtha. Nishtha means abidance. That is why these indicators are given and so much of elaboration in Bhashya is done. Okay, so this was the fifth mantra, just a recap. Now the seventh mantra is, somebody says, Vedanta told me that if you study Vedanta, you will get Atma Darshanam. I also know there is something called as Sad Darshanam. But if I have started walking on this path, how will I know? Am I close to my goal? Or do I need to work a little more to get closer towards my goal? Is there any specific metric, a more clear indicator which will tell me, have I reached my goal or am I still on the path? And somebody who has reached this goal, how does that person express that knowledge? What is the indicator of moksha? Just like how Arjuna asks, how does Jivan Mukta live in this world? Who is a Sthita Prajna? What are his indicators? Like that, this Upanishad Rishi is giving a very brief portion in this mantra where he says, this is how a Jivan Mukta lives. Very beautiful mantra. Phalashruti of Upanishad, entire Vedanta. Yastu sarvani bhutani. Yastu sarvani bhutani. Atmanyevanupashyati. Atmanyevanupashyati. Sarvabhuteshu chatmanam. Sarvabhuteshu chatmanam. Tato na vijugupsate. Tato na vijugupsate. Together. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupashyati sarvabhuteshu chatmanam tato na vijugupsate. Yahatu. That person. Who is that person? The same person who heard the first mantra of Ishavasyopanishad. Yaha, Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes, Parivrat Mumukshu. Means that sadhaka who heard, Ishavasya Idagam Sarvam, this whole creation is pervaded by Isha. Then what did he do? He went back, reflected on this teaching, meditated on this teaching, and really accomplished it as a fact for himself. It is one thing to say such a thing is true. It is totally different for that thing to become true for me. It is one thing to say such a thing is true, but it's a different part in our journey when that thing becomes true for us. Rutam vadishyami, satyam vadishyami. Now, Rutam and Satyam, they are two things which mean the same. Two words. Rutam means what? Truth. Satyam means truth. Now, why do we say it twice? Rutam vadishyami means whatever is said in the Upanishad is true. Means I will start my journey with faith. Maham Brahma nirakuryam. Ma Brahma nirakarot. Upanishads say this entire creation is Brahman, but I don't see it that way in the beginning. So I start my journey with faith and say whatever Upanishads are saying has to be true. But Upanishads don't want us to conclude that journey with faith. The conclusion of that journey is faith plus conviction. That conviction comes through constant reflection. Actually, conviction about anything comes to reflection only. If somebody has become a good lawyer, means day and night he is thinking about how will this law apply in that case. So mananam, wherever a sadhaka has done, ignorance in that area goes away. Our rishis say, if you do mananam about Atma Lakshanam, indicator of Atma, and our own true nature, our own ignorance will go away. So that sadhaka is this Yaha. And he has also done Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitaha. Bhagavan says he is a sannyasi. He has given up all other desires. Eshana Traya Tyaga he has done. Putreshana, Vitteshana, Lokeshana. Desire for progeny, desire for resources and a lot of wealth, and desire for name and fame. All three of them he has let gone of. That is this person, Yaha. Means Vedanta expects us that if this is our goal, we have to plan our life such that we can really reach our goal. If somebody says abidance in the truth is what I want, then I should be willing to make changes in my life. In next Saddarshanam class, we will see these points. Puja Guruji has mentioned this in the introduction part of the commentary. If you have the book, you can read later also. Guruji says, what is our test of commitment to the truth? The test is, if the truth demands to change all our preconceived notions, to change our current way of living, are we ready for it? If yes, then it means I really want it. Now, we don't have to suddenly change externally. Oh, I want to go somewhere, do something else. Nothing of that sort. But my current way of looking at life, if that thing I can change, bring more devotion, bring more acceptance, that itself is first step towards sannyasa. Bhagavan said in 5th chapter, the one who doesn't desire, one who doesn't have attachment, Nyeyah sa nitya sannyasi. Yona dveshti na kankshati. Know that person to be nitya sannyasi, who is not having any kind of hatred, dvesha, and no strong desire. These two things, this sadhaka is constantly looking within. All of that is the meaning of the word yaha. Yaha means that same student who heard Ishavasya but made changes in his life. He said, I should pull back from those bothering things. Nitya karma I cannot give up. Kamya karma I should give up. Nishiddha karma not even go close to. Even his mind he pays lot of attention. Doesn't allow any thought to come, anything to take over. Then he is able to abide in the first line. Mahagrudha kasya svidhanam also he doesn't go after mithya vastu too much. Then Ishavasyopanishad sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat is working for him. How does it work now? Yahatu sarvani bhutani atmani eva anupashyati. Sarvani bhutani means starting from avyakta, starting from the unmanifest upadhi, which is Maya, subtle, Hiranyagarbha, gross, this entire creation, including this physical body. That is Sarvani Bhutani. All of these things, where does he see? He doesn't see the world in the world. He sees the world in Atma. Yahatu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani eva anupashyati. In that consciousness, which is understood to be his own self, in that consciousness, he sees this Jagat. Yesterday we were chanting Dakshinamurti Stotram. This is the source of the first mantra. Vishvam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam. He is seeing this world as a city which is reflected in a mirror. Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam. Where does he see? Not outside. Nija Antargatam. He is seeing in his own Atma this entire creation. Now this seeing is not through physical eyes. If we use physical eyes, where will world appear? The world will always appear outside. He says that is Maya. Pashyan Atmani Maya Bahirivod Bhutam Yatha Nidraya. That is because of Maya, world is appearing there where it is not. World is actually in Atma, but because of Maya, it is appearing somewhere outside and Atma is unseen. Just like the city is actually there somewhere, but it is seen inside a mirror. City is behind you, but you are seeing it where it is not. Like that, Bhagavan says that analogy is very subtle to understand what he is saying there. He says, like that, you are seeing the world where it is not. Jnani sees the world in Atma. Agyani sees world in the world. And he feels, I am part of that world. So it is one thing to say there is world outside. Another thing to say, I am part of this world. So Jnani understands this Sharira is also Jagat. Mind is also Jagat. And this world outside, which is appearing or which is known through this individual conditioning, that is also Jagat. All of that is appearing in Atma. Vyashti conditioning and Samashti conditioning together appears in Atma. Sarvani Bhutani Yahatu Atmani eva Anupashyati. Anupashyati means what, you know? He was not born with this knowledge. He developed a pure mind got some jijnasa, desire to know, went to Upanishads, went to a teacher. When Upanishads pointed out in this way, after that, he started seeing the world in this way. So anu means after. Pashyati means after having shown the truth, he sees in that way. So when you use the word anuvada means what? A restatement. So you have already heard something. After that you state that same thing, it becomes anuvada. So anu means after. Another word is anubhava. Anubhava. This is what is anubhava? Means you have seen something through pramana first, and then you are getting conviction in that thing, what you saw. Then you say, this is my anubhava also. Anubhava is not an independent experience. Huh? If I say, color of this is blue, color of my kurta is blue, this is my anubhava. So you might have anubhava that this is blue, but it doesn't mean anything. Unless I have seen it through pramana, and then I state it. That is called as anubhava. So when we use the word Atma anubhava, it is not somebody's opinion about Atma, that I have experienced Atma in this way. We say nature of Atma, he has understood through pramana first. Just like color of this cloth, I understand through pramana, eyes. Nature of Atma also is understood through pramana. Then getting conviction in that this is how Atma is. Letting go of all the impurities of the mind, thinning down vasanas, meditating more upon this truth, what conviction comes, that is called as anubhava. The word anubhava in Vedanta has to be very carefully used. If we don't, we'll very quickly mix it up with mysticism. And mysticism is something you can neither validate nor you can refute. Like if I tell you, when I meditate, I see a blue light. Whenever meditation is very good, I see a yellow light. And mind is so calm, so peaceful. Now, can you validate it? You say, no, you might see. We can't validate it. Can you refute it? You can't refute also. So such kind of anubhava doesn't have any importance in our spiritual journey. It might be true. Somebody might be seeing. I don't see, by the way. Huh? I'm just giving an example. Somebody might see something. Some siddhis might be there. But as far as knowledge of truth is concerned, that is not an indicator. Why did we come to this? Anupashyati, the word anu. Anu means after. He sees after. He sees after what? After hearing the first Upanishad mantra, after tuning his mind with that Upanishad mantra, bringing about the changes to own up that Upanishad mantra, he sees this truth for himself. Now this is the end goal. Huh? So if we get the question, am I abiding in Atma? Am I making progress towards Atma Drishti? Our question should be, where am I seeing the world? Am I seeing the world outside in the world? Or am I seeing the world in myself? So myself there refers to Shuddha Chaitanya. In consciousness, world should be seen. Now this is one side of it. Let's see the second indicator also. What was the first one? Yahatu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani eva anupashyati. One who sees all the beings in Atma. What did Sarvani Bhutani refer to? Starting from Avyakta, all the way till Stula Prapancha. If you have studied Vedanta Sara, we should bring some vocabulary in between. Simple vocabulary only this is, right? Avyakta, Sukshma, Sthula. because they will give a lot of clarity and precision in our thinking. Otherwise, Sarvani seems just all this. The place where I'm sitting, the chairs, the walls. They are talking about Sarvani starting from avyakta, unmanifest, all the way until the gross world. Atmani eva anupashyati. And how is he understood it? He says the world and me, they are not two independent things. Snake and rope, illusory snake and rope, they are not two independent things. One alone is appearing as two. So when he says Sarvani Bhutani, it is not like when he says, I see this whole world in Atma. On Mahatma Ji, he writes in the commentary, it is not like you are taking a pot and then putting rice in that pot. Pot can also say, all the rice is in me. But what is the flaw here? Pot is different, rice is different. Or if you have a camera, you see all the names and forms appearing on that screen. Now you can say all the names and forms are in that camera. You cannot make that statement because they are two independent things. You can see camera separately. You can see the world separately. You can see rice separately, pot separately. This statement is made from the standpoint of non-duality. When the water says, all the waves are in me. Sarvani Bhutani are like waves. And water says, all the waves are in me. I see all the waves in me. Meaning what? There is only water. Wave is only an appearance, a name and form. Like that, Sarvani Bhutani are only an appearance. It's just name and form. What is really there is Chaitanya. That is the implied meaning of that line. Yahatu Sarvani Bhutani Atmani eva anupashyati. So you cannot give the same degree of reality to Atma and Bhuta also. One is real, another is an appearance. Example, if you hold on to, the point becomes clearer. So wave example is one of it. More we will see when we see Bhashya. Okay, now come to the second line. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam. He sees himself in all beings. Sarva bhuteshu, seventh case. Sarva bhuteshu. In all beings, sarva bhuteshu atmanam pashyati. One was he saw all beings in himself. Now he's seeing himself in all beings as the Atma of all beings. This statement you cannot make unless there is non-duality. So what was the first statement that water made? I see all the waves in me. Now it is making the statement, I see myself in all the waves. I see myself as the Atma of all the waves. Now, if there were two independent things, try to make this sentence. Let's take the rice and pot example. You put the rice in the pot. Pot is saying, all the rice is in me. Now, can it reflip this sentence? Can pot say, I am in all the rice? Say, no, because pot is different material. Rice is different material. But whenever there is Advaita, non-duality, this is a statement which will take us there. See, truth in Vedanta is never told directly. Because again, we have this unique ability to objectify it. So always put it in such a way that we have to sit down with a calm mind, reflect on these mantras, and then bring out the essence. First indicator was all the beings are seen in Atma, just like all the waves are seen in water. Second one is seeing myself in all beings, seeing water in all the waves. Because if you say there are so many waves and all the waves are appearing in water, is there many water or only one water? See, water, it's easy to say that, right? Or there is only one water. Now, if you say there are 100 people, all those upadhis are appearing in Atma. How many Atmas are there? There is only one Atma. To indicate that this thing has come. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam. Although there is so much of multiplicity in this world, so much variety in this world, but that Atma in which it is appearing is not many. That Atma I am. In that way he meditates. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam. A very applied expression of this knowledge is that Jnani is able to effortlessly love this world. We have Atma Buddhi in this body. Do we feel my right hand is more dear to me than my left hand? Some are nodding yes. Gurudev would give another example. He would say, sometimes when the teeth bites the tongue, even if it is bleeding, we never feel any kind of anger towards the teeth. Because we have Atma Buddhi in teeth, in the tooth, and also in tongue. Like that, this Jnani is able to have Atma Buddhi in entire Jagat. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam pashyati. That's why if you read Gurudev's letter, how would he start his letters? Blessed self. Blessed self. Salutations. See, Mahatma is able to talk keeping sight of the divinity in us. They might be talking to a small child. They might be talking to an angry person. They might be talking to a kami. But their attention is on that self, which is their own true self. With this bhavana, just like we become so accepting of this physical body, the flaws of our own mind, because we have Atma Buddhi there. Like that, this Jnani becomes accepting of whole creation. No situation he feels is out of place. No experience he feels is out of place. That is his anubhava. Really speaking, that is one of the expression of devotion also, where the sadhaka is able to see, if Atma becomes difficult, you say replace the word with Bhagavan. Kakabhushandiji's story in Uttarakhand, he ends up having a heated discussion with his guru. Guru was teaching him Nirguna Upadesha, his mind was in Saguna. Lomasha Rishi gets very angry. He says, you are so opinionated. You have such a strong opinion about your view. Paksha you are taking, become a Pakshi, become a crow. Suddenly from human body becomes a crow. Very scary, to see it that way. But he says, Nija Prabhumaya de kahi jagata. Kehi sana karahu durava. I see this whole world. Where do you see this world? Nija Prabhumaya. I see this world in my Bhagavan. If I see it that way, with whom can I do durava? Means with whom can I have any kind of anger towards? Whom can I get upset with? Durava means that. Then he says, Ura Preraka Raghubhamsa Vibhushana. Bhagavan is the inner prompter of all jivas. He is as well the script writer. Presses the button, dialogues are written already. Who has to say what? Sometimes it is lot of joy. Sometimes it is sorrow. In both these things, he says, it is me only who is doing this. Jnani will say that. Bhakta will say, it is my Bhagavan who is prompting it, because this is entire Jagat in Bhagavan. That is this Sarva Bhuteshu cha Atmanam. Tataha na Vijugupsate. Vijugupsa means gruna. So what is gruna? Gruna is getting fed up. Applied meaning of gruna is getting fed up. Disgust. Expression of that is hatred and jealousy. All meanings are there. A jnani who is able to see himself as a substratum of creation, see himself in all beings, that jnani will never get fed up with this world. That jnani will never have jealousy in this world, will never have hatred in this world. Great Phalashruti, huh? All of them are exalted stages of knowledge. And Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes here, Tato na Vijugupsate is not sadhana. Not having disgust, being accepting of this world is not sadhana for him. It is an expression of knowledge. See, majority problems come in our life because our understanding about ourselves is erroneous. We think we are this body, we think we are this finite person, and our happiness will come when this ahankara is satisfied. Upanishads want to tell us, happiness is your nature. You don't have to do anything to be happy. Just let go of this erroneous notion. Happiness is right here, right now. So whenever I think of myself as finite, what is the natural expression? Others are different from me. Of course, within those I will have some whom I love, some whom I like. If raga comes, natural expression of raga is dvesha. Raga, dvesha are not two independent things. Whenever attachment comes, the opposite side of that coin is hatred, dvesha. But if a sadhaka is able to know his own nature as Shuddha Chaitanya, really own up the meaning of this verse in one's own life. All the beings I am seeing as though, not why as though, seeing all the beings in oneself, in Atma. Seeing oneself as Atma of all beings. If that happens, natural expression of this is no Vijugupsa, no jealousy. Just like my right hand is not jealous of left hand. When we shake hand with somebody, does our other hand get jealous? Only right hand did, left hand did not. Like that, if anybody can do it, whatever I am supposed to do, this sadhaka feels the same joy because he has owned up this particular understanding. Whatever has to come to me, if it comes to somebody else, he says it is the same ananda. You know, in India, they would have this, in temples if you go, they would give prasad. After the arati is done, this was a tradition. Every Sunday, go to a temple, take prasad and come. And a lot of people, so much that, you have to put your hand like this, one thing will come. It has happened so many times with me. This one who is giving prasad will start from this side, come all the way, stop just before you. Go back, refill, start from the other side, stop somewhere right after you. But Vedanta students' bhava is, no matter who gets it, I alone am eating through that upadhi. To understand or to say that there is only one Atma is very easy. But to own up that conviction, that is what will take us further in our sadhana. Sarvabhuteshu ja atmanam tatah na Vijugupsate. Now Bhagavan gives a very beautiful reason. Why do we have disgust? Why do we have jealousy? Why do we get fed up with things? He says one reason is whenever we see something as different from ourselves. Whenever we see something as different from ourselves, that is where the scope of gruna comes. And the second one is, if that thing has some dosha. If that thing has some dosha, that is when gruna comes. Means we get turned off from that thing. Example for this is our hair. As long as it is on the head, we have Atma Buddhi there. This is my hair. Moment it comes out and you find it somewhere else, in food or somewhere, you see it as different from yourself. There gruna will come. One of our Swamiji was saying, abhi to geet likh rahe the aap uske upar. Means you are writing a poetry. If it comes in a different place, it looks so different, so difficult to accept. So dosha is there and it is different from me. That is what brings gruna. But as long as it is attached to me, there is no gruna there. Same object. Another example is nail. As long as it is attached to me, I see that as me. It is so good. So many things we do with it. The moment it gets detached, moment I say it is different from me, gruna will come. And there is dosha there. We don't see it as a good thing. In the same way, this sadhaka is able to see this whole creation as oneself. That is why there is no gruna. The moment we see some other person is different from me, moment we see some dosha there, that is where gruna will come. Okay, moment we see any limitation or a shortcoming, that is when distaste, getting fed up, all of that will come. Think of it differently. In Vedanta, we do Drik Drishya Viveka, right? What do we say? I am not the mind, I am the drashta, seer. Kamadhyaha chittaga drishyaha. Vidyaranya Swamiji said, even if you have a thought of desire, kamadhyaha, that is not who you are. Work on that desire separately, but don't judge yourself or define yourself with that desire. So at individual level, we have understood that through Vedanta alone, that all these limitations are in buddhi. They are not in me. Raga, ichha, sukha, dukkhadi, buddhau satyam pravartate. Sushuptau nasti tannashe. In Sushupti, all these things are not that because buddhi nasha has taken place. Tasmat buddhestu natmanaha. Therefore, these limitations are in buddhi, they are not in me. With this strength, Vedanta says, never look down upon yourself. Gurudev's one message is there in Sandeepany inauguration course. There he says, the first thing every sadhaka must learn is to worship oneself. Now we should appreciate what Gurudev is saying there. He's not saying worship as his body. He says all of us are that Parabrahma, never looking down upon ourselves, mixing up this Buddhi Upadi. Whatever limitations are there, we will work on it. Sadhana is at its own place. He says, never look down upon yourself. Just like it is true here, it is true in this whole creation. Means in my neighbor also, if that neighbor has some shortcoming, there also the sadhaka says, I am that Atma in which this Upadhi is also appearing. Be very careful here. What is the natural way of thinking? Okay, I am the Atma illumining this Upadhi. My neighbor's Atma is different, which is illumining his Upadhi. And just now we said there is only one Atma. So this sadhaka says, I am that Atma, which is illumining my Upadhi or this individual Upadhi and all Upadhis, and no limitations are there in Atma. From that standpoint, he is able to love this world. Tataha na Vijugupsate. No gruna anywhere. You all must have heard the story of Angulimala, the student of Lord Buddha. You know Angulimala, how that name comes, right? You would chop off Angulis, make a mala out of it, and wear. He was a dacoit, did all these things. And darshan of a saint is so purifying. What to talk about conversation with a saint. So Lord Buddha, when he goes, makes him realize the futility of such a life. He says, you have a human birth. What are you doing with that human birth? And Angulimala transforms, becomes Sharanagata, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. That is where that famous phrase comes. And attains this knowledge. With conviction, he is able to say, I am the truth. I am God. I am the substratum of this whole creation. All the beings are appearing in me. He makes statements like that. Similar echoes. Of course, Bauddha Darshana will not say, I am God. They will say it in a differently. I am the truth. I am the truth. But then he goes back to his village and all other villagers recognize him. He says, same Angulimala, again he has come in a disguise, saying all these things, I am the truth and so on. And they start abusing him, start beating him, to a point that he's almost about to die. And all other disciples who are there, they take him back to Lord Buddha. Lord Buddha asks, who did this to you? Who did this to you? He says the same person who is asking now. The same person who is asking my well-being, the same person did. Means that Atma, which is my Atma, is the same Atma which gave me that Anubhava, is the same Atma in which this Anubhava is also happening. Means all Vyavahara is happening in that same Atma. I am that Atma. Na Vijugupsate, not having any kind of distaste towards the world. But the important point here is, Tato na Vijugupsate is not sadhana. It is an expression of knowledge of Vedanta. One commentator, he writes, if you are reading 12th chapter, Adveshta sarva bhutanam maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samadukha sukakshami. All of that, you can read it one way as sadhana. To say that this is how a devotee should live his life. Once that devotee attains knowledge, abides in that knowledge, what happens to all this sadhana? He says all that sadhana becomes natural expression of his knowledge. If one really abides in Atma, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam is natural. It is just like saying, if one has really owned up the identity of a mother, does somebody have to come and tell that, okay, now you are a mother, you have to take care of the child in this way. You have to do this in that way. If the child cries, you have to go. He says, no, nothing is needed. Once that identity is owned up, everything else is an expression of that knowledge. Like that, if Atma is owned up as one's own self and sees creation in that Atma, expression of that knowledge is tataha na Vijugupsate. There is no jealousy, no hatred. What was the main theme here? Litmus test of Atma Drishti. Whenever we say, have I understood Vedanta? Am I abiding in that truth? Question we should ask is, where am I seeing the world? When I say aham, where does that aham land? If first line and second line, first quarter comes to mind, that means Vedanta has started working. What is the Phalashruti? Am I turned off against anything in this world? Does anything bother me? Then I have to again go back and abide in this mithyatva of Jagat. Mithyatva of Jagat, that is the abiding in mithyatva of Jagat means abiding in Atma, knowing that Jagat is mithya. Don't give something more importance than what it deserves. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone.